Federal Reserve Bank launches phase 1 of CBDC this July. But before I play this one, this is March 17th. Let me see when he did this one, March 15th.
Weeks before the Silicon Valley Bank collapse, several executives sold off large shares of stock, while mainstream media tells its audience to invest in them. On March 9th, the day before the collapse, Israel's two largest banks pulled up to $1 billion out of SVB, while Peter Thiel's Founders Fund withdrew millions and advised their clients to do the same. The next day, there was a run on the bank, and Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. Is this evidence of a controlled demolition or a hasty one? The day before the collapse, a U.S. judge ordered J.P. Morgan Chase to turn over documents in a lawsuit accusing them of aiding in Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking operation. The team behind this lawsuit was the same team who successfully exposed the involvement of Deutsche Bank, and they subpoenaed several other banks they believe were involved in sex trafficking, including Silicon Valley Bank and Bank Leumi, the Israeli bank that drained $1 billion out of SVB the day before it collapsed. Whatever the reason, the U.S. government's response threatens to collapse the world economy. The FDIC insures up to $250,000 for each depositor, but now they are going to cover all depositor losses. And they don't have enough to cover the $175 billion of SVB losses, let alone the trillions of dollars to be lost on the near horizon as banks across the world begin to break. The systemic risk among GSIBs, global systemically important banks, is that they are so deeply connected that when one falls, they will all follow. Much of the world's economy is already collapsing due to the actions of the U.S. government and the Federal Reserve banking system. And much of the world has been preparing for the end of the U.S. dollar as a world reserve currency. After all the smaller banks die, the people will be left with the central bank, and their solution is the CBDC. CBDC stands for Central Bank Digital Currency. With CBDC, there are no more options. Everyone's account is run directly through the central bank system.
As the financial system gets more controlling and more invasive, it's a little bit like bringing up a corral around us. And CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, and vaccine passports or digital IDs are sort of the last shutting of the gate. It's hard for many people to imagine the risks here because we're so used to living with financial transaction freedom, and we don't understand that when this gate closes on us, we literally will be sitting in a system where the central banks believe that our assets belong to them, and they can dictate where we can spend money and what we can spend money on. If you don't behave, you can have your money turned off.
There are 12 Federal Reserve banks, which are located in cities being considered for the 15-minute city model of the World Economic Forum. This is where it's all headed, and there isn't much pushback in the federal government. Utah Senator Mike Lee introduced the No CBDC Act last September, which will likely go nowhere. But we, the people, have much more sway over our local governments. An Oklahoma House committee unanimously passed a bill to protect Oklahomans from being forced to adopt a CBDC. It's time for we the people to unite with our neighbors and local communities and prepare to liberate ourselves from the central bank system. Recall our corrupt county officials and start looking into local barter and trade systems, because central bank digital currency is coming at us quickly, and it equals financial enslavement. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
So if you guys watched my show last night, and if you didn't, go watch it. I had transcribed a lot of what Catherine, the lady that you just saw on that clip with Tucker, Catherine Austin Fitts, she says, let's move to a cash economy, start paying cash everywhere. This is what they don't want. And if an establishment won't take cash, you tell them you're going somewhere else then. Number one, for the small business owner, paying cash helps them because they have to give up 3.5% to 4% to every credit card transaction. So they're going to have more profit on their bottom line. For a cleaners, take your old hangers back. That saves them a lot of money. So start paying cash with everything. She has also recommended pull all your money out of the bank and start paying with cash, because this is what they don't want. And they want us to be dependent on them and to give in to this digital currency. So don't for a minute accept that.
Founded by David Rockefeller, the Trilateral Commission has been an arm of the globalist deep state since 1973. Last week, at their annual meeting, a speaker who cannot be identified according to commission rules said that we are now in a period of structural inflation that will last for decades. They said that the free market is over and industry now sets policy. And they said that this year, 2023, is year one of this new global order. Days later, the Federal Reserve Bank announces a July launch for their new FedNow service, which was first announced in October of 2021. The too big to fail banks and all the large processors are already on board, and so is the U.S. Treasury. The first week of April, the Federal Reserve begins the FedNow pilot program for early adopters to become certified participants to help the Fed confirm readiness for their July launch. FedNow is an instant payment processing system that seeks to be the base of all digital transactions, acting as an umbrella company to manage all financial payments. This has been shown to be the gateway to a central bank digital currency, CBDC. FedNow is much like the Reserve Bank of India's instant payment system, the Unified Payments Interface, or UPI. UPI has had huge success in converting rural communities into a complete cashless society. According to the International Monetary Fund, UPI democratized the payment system and paved the way for central bank digital currencies. Central bank instant payment processing is also how the Central Bank of Nigeria introduced its CBDC, Naira, which has been, so far, violently rejected. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Our own FedNow service will be coming online in 2023. We are examining whether a U.S. central bank digital currency would improve upon what is an already safe and efficient domestic payment system. A U.S. CBDC could also potentially help maintain the dollar's international standing.
By May 1st, 1933, FDR required Americans to turn their gold into the government by making it illegal to own. And this was the beginning of the end of our freedoms. Nixon took the U.S. off the gold standard on August 15th, 1971. At this point, the dollar became a fiat currency, and once again, our freedoms were eroded away. One of my favorite Thomas Jefferson quotes, "Paper is poverty. It is only the ghost of money and not money itself." And just yesterday, March 15th, 2023, the Federal Reserve announced a July launch for the FedNow service. And check this out. The first week of April, the Federal Reserve will begin the formal certification of participants for launch of the service. So that means we're just a couple of weeks away from the end game.
We're in the end game now.
If you're not familiar with what the FedNow service is, that's what I want to go over in this video. It is essentially the infrastructure for a central bank digital currency, which will mean we no longer have any more freedoms. All of our freedoms will be completely gone because the government will be able to control one side of every transaction that takes place. So they will be able to control everything. We will no longer be free. This is complete totalitarian control, and it starts in a couple of weeks. Thank you so much for watching my video. I do sincerely appreciate it. We're going to start here with the federalreserve.gov press release. This came out just yesterday, so it is breaking news. However, the FedNow service has been talked about for a number of months, And we've not known until now when they were actually going to be launching this program. But essentially, this is going to be a way for people to bank directly with the Fed, as the name implies, FedNow Service, and be able to send and receive money instantly. So what I actually want to do is scroll down to the About the FedNow Service, and we're going to read this paragraph here. So it starts off, the Federal Reserve banks are developing the FedNow service to facilitate nationwide reach of instant payment services by financial institutions, regardless of size or geographic location, around the clock, every day of the year. Through financial institutions participating in the FedNow service, businesses and individuals will be able to send and receive instant payments at any time of day, and recipients will have full access to funds immediately, giving them greater flexibility to manage their money and make time-sensitive payments. Access will be provided through the Federal Reserve's FedLine network, which serves more than 10,000 financial institutions directly or through their agents. For more information, visit FedNowExplorer.org. So basically, this is going to be a new bank account that people can sign up for. I kind of like to think of it as the PayPal that the government is sponsoring, right? And this in itself is not a central bank digital currency. However, for a central bank digital currency to work, something like this is going to need to be in place. So this is the infrastructure for a CBDC. So they're building the railroad tracks. Once those are in place, then they can run the train on the tracks. So the CBDC will be the train. The FedNow service is what the train will run on. Now, the Federal Reserve is not just going to come out and say, look, your freedom is gone. We're here, we're taking over, you had a good run, but now we are in control. They're not going to say that. They're going to do this in layers, right? And this is the first layer. It's the first step for them being able to take over and get complete control. So with this being launched in just a few weeks, with them starting to sign people on, this is where they get all of the control. This is where they eventually phase out cash, and they're going to force everyone to sign up for this service. So when it launches, I'm not going to sign up for it. You're probably not going to sign up for it. Most people are not going to want to participate in this pilot program. Most people are going to see through what they're trying to do. However, some people will sign up for it. They're not going to understand because the Fed has come out and said, look, this is not dangerous. This is so that you can send money faster. They're trying to paint it in a good light, but we know what they're really doing. There's obviously something nefarious here.
Exactly. This will all be in the description of my video on Rumble. Like, share, and subscribe the Rumble channel. Thank you guys so much for helping that grow. It grew like 100 people overnight. I do so appreciate it, guys. Okay. And like, share on TCPQ as well.
The EMF Shield. Protect yourself from the harmful effects of non-ionizing EMF, electromagnetic field radiation. Newly designed for 5G. For use on cell phones, laptops, iPads, smart meters, smart TVs, PDAs, devices sending and receiving electronic data.
A phone micro shield promising protection has now arrived in Adelaide, so we put it to the test. We're surrounded in signals.
I think it's the root cause of a lot of cancers.
3G, 4G, now 5G is coming to a suburb near you.
It is a big health issue and it's only going to get worse.
The big telcos will tell you there's nothing to see here.
It's a bit like the cigarette companies saying that tobacco wasn't a problem.
Electromagnetic radiation is what mobile phones emit. Now a tiny wafer-thin shield is being touted as a potential protector of our brain. And when we road tested it, the result was jaw-dropping. Wow. I spent 10 minutes with my mobile phone against my ear, had a thermal image snapped, and the result floored me and my crew. Not only hot, but white hot. in the ears region. The EMF shield was then attached to the back of the phone, another 10 minutes on it. This time the image snapped was cool.
So get your EMF shields at phoneShieldTCP.com. That's phoneShieldTCP.com, or click the link in the description below.